With all of us making more and more content, both for traditional broadcast and increasingly for streaming, getting a professional look and standing out from the crowd has never been more important. On-screen graphics are one of the most important parts of a production to get right.
Yeah, and in the old days, it was expensive and required specific workflows. The equipment was engineered. And while this equipment will make the big boys stand apart, what about the rest of us that consider these expensive boxes somewhat of a barrier to creativity?
Yeah, so singular.live have addressed this by offering a solution that works over the internet, can be localized or regionalized easily in any SDI, NDI or IP cloud workflow, includes free templates, and can even encourage audience engagement. So here to tell us a bit more about this is Mike Ward. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hi guys, thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure, Mike. So give us a little background into where Singular.live has come from.
So, well, the team behind Singular have worked in live production and predominantly graphics for the best part of 25 years. Our founder, Hubert, and who's our CTO as well, he was one of the original founders of VizRT, who are, still an industry leader in this field. And he wrote Viz Engine, was part of that team. And then on the other side, we've got the rest of the team have got a background basically delivering high-end graphics for everything from the Super Bowl to Formula One to Sky, all over the world. And, we won a dozen Emmy Awards for our work. So we are, we joke internally, but we absolutely stink of graphics. It's what we do. the issue I guess,
got there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the issue that we faced was kind of spending a lot of time sitting in big, massive rack rooms, looking at things where we're thinking there's all this hardware and all this equipment to add a logo or, a lower third onto some video. And it hasn't really evolved. Look, those engines, they're really powerful, but the infrastructure hasn't really evolved to serve, as you guys already alluded to, all those people who can't afford that high-end equipment.
So what in that case, what was the goal? What were you trying to create?
Yeah, good question. So essentially what we wanted to do was not just lower the barriers to entry, we really wanted to completely remove them. And so when we started out thinking, okay, well, how, literally from a blank piece of paper, how are we going to do this? We looked at HTML because that's the kind of most widely used format in terms of sort of graphics and rendering. So we started there and then realized that it needed to be web-based. So a real priority for us was making sure that anyone could access this platform from any kind of background, whether they had experience or not, whatever their resources. So kind of making it in cloud-based and web-based was really important for us. So it meant that anyone can access any part of this platform just through a standard Chrome web browser.
So time to tell us the secrets then, Mike. What's going on in the background that makes Singular able to do this?
If I knew that, I would genuinely tell you. What's really going on is some really, really clever people who are very passionate about what they do. It's essentially built on an AWS. It uses a lot of JavaScript and other things like Heroku and Firebase, which I can pretend to understand, but I'll quickly get pulled apart by anyone technical watching this. But the reality is, it is an entire platform that's built on our experience, our understanding of what is needed by design teams to be able to customize and fully build their own graphics, all the way through to graphics operators who are running a live production. So everything from our authoring environment through to the control application, it's all web-based and it's all built off years of pain and experience of doing this stuff on the biggest kind of highest profile events all around the world.
So I mentioned at the front, okay, so you just said it's web-based. And I mentioned at the front that it works in SDI, NDI, IP cloud environments. What does it really genuinely work in all modern and traditional workflows?
It genuinely does, and it wasn't actually our intention to ever do that. When we started out, we intended it to be an IP sort of cloud solution, and we never really built it to try and compete with the existing platforms because like I said, we've worked with and some of us built those platforms. We know how powerful they are, and they are really, really powerful machines. The traditional CGs can do incredible things. But not everyone needs all of those features. Not everyone is trying to build a massive, complex AR graphic, or needs big 3D rendering and different design elements.
Right. Yeah.
So I think when we started out, it was very much focused on the live streaming, on all of the people who weren't traditional broadcasters. But what quickly happened was that a lot of our kind of traditional clients were coming to us and saying, look, we're not going to do our flagship productions using this, not right now anyway. But what we do want to do is, we've got all these rights that we can't afford to actually produce because it's too expensive to go through a traditional gallery. Using Singular and, other partner technologies that are out there now, cloud-based video platforms, they're suddenly seeing, well, with a much smaller team and a much, much lower kind of cost, we can produce really good-looking content and that we wouldn't otherwise be able to afford to do. So then the issue they faced was a lot of them were still using baseband video and running SDI video workflows. So
of course, yeah.
They actually approached us, and we worked with one of our partners, Reality Check Solutions, to develop a kind of SDI workflow. And essentially what that is just taking a computer, and the one we used was an Intel NUC, just because it was the cheapest, smallest footprint we could find. Taking a Blackmagic IO box, so you run your SDI video into that IO box, connect it via Thunderbolt to your computer, whether that's a laptop or a NUC or whatever it is. You add your Singular graphics and you output an SDI signal with graphics on it. So yeah, it is that simple.
It is that easy. Yeah.
So in our situation here, Mike, we use vMix, and we've worked with companies like Neverknow in the past to provide social feeds coming through a web browser input into vMix. I guess I'm right in thinking that we could effectively outsource our lower thirds, and somebody else could be remotely controlling our graphics on a live production via vMix.
Absolutely. It's sort of the compatibility of Singular is a really important part for us. Again, going back to that, making sure it's accessible to as many people as possible. So we're natively compatible with things like OBS and vMix. The output from Singular is just a URL. So you take that output URL, and any device that, mixer or switcher, whatever, that can take a browser as a source is compatible with Singular. And then we've got other solutions like, your Grabios, TVUs, Sony, the Grass Valley amp, where we've done a sort of tighter integration, so we're part of their user interface. But yes, essentially, one of the additional benefits, and I keep talking about the benefits, but one of the additional benefits of being cloud-based and accessible through a web browser is that your designers, your operators can be sat anywhere. You just log in through the web page and you can be controlling the graphics. If you have a designer who's working on things, the client can see things in real time and can interact to say, no, just, I want the font a bit bigger, I want that yellow a bit softer, whatever. Do that in real time, and you can make changes on the fly, live if you need to. So yeah, that's a big component part of it.
And it's so being remote, and that's great. And well, certainly at the moment, being able to do it remote is great. Being in the cloud without all of those machines in your machine room, it's probably quite green as well. But is there any level of automation in there? Can we triggers?
That's a good question. So there are lots of different levels of automation, as you guys know. So, in terms of it being at the moment integrated into sort of newsroom automation systems like Mozart or platforms like Ordina, that's not done yet. We're working on that with actually a couple of partners. And cool. There are some platforms. I mentioned Dina already, which is a really nice platform for this. There's another one, I don't know if you guys are aware of an open source platform called Sophie, which again is an automation system, which we've talked about. And as with all of these things, right. They're great ideas, but until you've got someone saying, can you do this? I actually want to use this. It sort of slips down the priority list. But then
of course,
within Singular itself, within the control application, You can create playlists, you can set durations, so you can build your own playout and playlist in that way. And we can also integrate with multiple different data sources. So you could take a sports data feed and have those, data activities trigger the graphics, whether those are updates or a goal score alert or anything like that. And then, just to circle back on something you mentioned with Neverknow, we've got a few clients that we share with Neverknow, and we know the guys very well, Scott and Ed and the team down there. And it's a great example of where we want to do an integration with them, but it's a case of defining what that integration looks like, because what we think a lot of clients would really like is the ability to use what Neverknow are fantastic at, which is that curation and, the aggregation of all the social media and preparing that to be displayed, and then essentially just using Singular to do the visualization part. But ultimately making it super easy for any operator to use both platforms in conjunction with each other. So
a new client lands on your website to find out more. Mike, is it a subscription-based service? How do you price it? Is it dependent on how much I need it, or is it pay as you go?
It's a SaaS platform, and roughly speaking, there are 3 tiers. So anyone can sign up completely free, and you get access to all the platform. So that includes our APIs and SDKs to develop your own solutions, which is actually something we're seeing a lot of right now, is people using the platform to in their own way for their own thing. So, companies like Pixelot, for example, they use Singular for all of their graphics on their live productions, but they don't actually go through our interface. They just tie into our APIs and use that. And we've got other developers who are creating their own solutions. But so the free tier is free, and that allows you to have a single user and a single output, and the output will just have a small Singular watermark on it. From there, you then go to the professional tier, and the professional tier is $100 a month, and you get a clean output, 2 users, and a greater amount of kind of API access, because we've had to put some data limitations on the API calls just because of the volume. We actually had a guy in India who was doing a cricket show. And he nearly, this is a while ago, but he was taking up about 80% of our data bandwidth from Firebase just with the number of calls he was making through a connection he'd made with Google Sheets. He was oblivious to it. Luckily, we had kind of plenty of monitoring stuff in place to flag it. So the guys quickly shut it down and said, what are you doing? What are you doing? So that's the professional tier. And then we have enterprise. And enterprise is really all about kind of the sort of bespoke solution where, you'll have a larger enterprise client who's either got multiple channels or they want to put multiple different variants outputs. So it might be multi-language outputs of the same channel, different sponsor logos, that kind of scaling where they want multiple outputs, but also they want dedicated support. They might want some custom development. And all of those are kind of, the enterprise customers are all very bespoke because it really does depend on the needs. And we also do trials for the enterprise as well. So if someone wants to sort of try it out, see if it works for them, we can do that. But otherwise, it's a monthly subscription, no long-term commitment. You just sign up and give it a go. We also, just to finish on that, we also have on our website a try me section. So without signing up, anyone can go there and just try some basic graphics, whether it's a lower third or a ticker. And they can actually use that in OBS or vMix. So, you could just literally go to our website, not even sign up and start playing around with it and seeing if it's going to work for you.
I can see this being amazing for local sports, lower league sports, not-for-profits, charities and things like that as well. I can see it being fantastic. So if you had, let's say you got, quick 30 seconds to explain to them why they need to choose you over any other solution, what is it?
So I think UniquelySingular uses intelligent overlays, which means that we're not only providing you with a platform that is a no commitment, low cost, easy to use, accessible platform that doesn't require you committing to buying hardware. It allows you to do everything you're going to need right now in terms of your live streams, whilst also providing you with the tools for your future ambitions. So we can render our graphics on stream. We can also render them on device. So every viewer's device will render the graphics, and they can be interactive. And as you mentioned at the start, localized or personalized.
Sounds
Yeah.
great, mate. I think we're definitely going to check that out. As you know, we work with the IABM with their BAM Live, where we do use Neverknow, and to have another pair of hands and brain doing the lower thirds and graphics would be a huge benefit, as well as, of course, better graphics as well. So, yeah, look
I
forward
fear
to.
I've just got another job there. Yeah.
Thank you,
I mean,
mate.
the one thing I would just add at the end is,
Yeah.
and you mentioned loosely, is our Singular for Good program. It's one of the things that's really, really important to us. Is again back to the accessibility. It's making sure that Singular is available to as many people as possible. And so our Singular for Good program gives Singular completely free to any schools or any non-profits at all, anywhere in the world. And what we're seeing is a really, really interesting group. I mean, we've literally got the UN has signed up. We've got the Danish Education Ministry. We've got the Oxford University Natural History Museum.
Fantastic.
And we've got a school in Hawaii doing their spelling bee competitions with it. It's really a fantastic and eclectic mix of people, but I encourage anyone to sign up and take advantage of that.
Yeah, we'll certainly do everything we can to help spread the word as well. Mike, thank you very much for coming today. Really, really good to talk to you. And of course, thanks to Mediaproxy for their ongoing support of KitPlus TV. You can check them out at mediaproxy.com, and we'll see you next time.